Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
For the best in paranormal talk radio, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary.
Hey, that is me. Here it is, Monday already, the 9th. Now, don't forget, tomorrow on Night Dreams Talk Radio, we have Stephen Bassett will be our guest between, 8 and 10 p.m. Pacific West Coast time tomorrow. Now, if you're not familiar with, Steve Bassett, he's into UFOs big time and conspiracies with the government with UFOs. And boy, he has done a lot trying to get the government to open up and, supply us information about what is going on with the UFOs. Wow. Hey, today in Gig Harbor, the weather was, it was not hot, it wasn't cold, it was just kind of blah. But that is so much better than, I guess, our typical rain. I can't figure this out, though. Global changes are going on. I'm sure of it. But two months ago, we had the highest temperature ever recorded in our area. The highest before 2 months ago ever recorded was 72 degrees. We hit 92 degrees. That's a 20-degree, increase in the temperature. So something is going on. Hey, tonight, we got a great guest. We're going to be talking, I'm going to let you find out. But anyway, she'll be on in just a second. Now, a little bit of thunder there. And here we have our guest tonight is Samantha Ellen Ritchie. And we're going to be talking about, little people out in the woods. When you do a lot of research on it, there's a lot of talk about the various Indian tribes in our country talking about, little people, all the way up to from a couple inches up to about 2.5 feet tall. They have a tendency of being out deep in the woods. They like being like in ferns and tall grass. And, some of the tribes I was reading kind of look at they came from another planet. Because their son kind of died and they got on our planet and, they're living, on our planet in the woods away from human contact. But they are friendly, but also I was reading they do have one thing they can do is paralyze you. So, hey, Samantha, are you there?
I am here.
Well, how's your day going?
Oh, it's not bad. Just finishing it out with this radio program, and then I'm going to just crash. I think.
Well, I have a dog. It's part poodle, part terrier. It's 20 years old. And, it's been blind for 2 years. And about 6 months ago, we had to start putting it in diapers. I'll tell you, I've had 8 kids, and this has gotten to be, worse than changing diapers. But, as long as the dog is happy and still coherent and still lovable, I can't do anything except, change his diapers and try and make him comfortable. But, then he has his bad moments where, you don't get any sleep because you're, trying to comfort him. So, I don't know.
Yep.
So, I guess we were talking about little people.
Yep. And go ahead.
Well, I was saying I've been doing some research, like the Cherokees talk about little people. I've talked to one of the elders with the Muckleshoot Indian tribe. They say that there's miniature people out there in the woods, going all the way back, for many of their generations. And from reading, I read it, they're anywhere from a couple inches tall all the way up to approximately 2.5 feet. So,
yeah, there's quite a range. It's interesting. There's a lot of research. I kind of came off on this not really. Most people, they find an interesting subject like that. Says, well, I'm going to research it. So they'll find all the available information, what's available for. I think the best way to go, if you're going to find truth about this, is is to examine the old Indian legends and even the mythologies associated with these. It has a ring of truth. You just assume that if someone made it up, then there must have been a reason why, about these people and the different kinds. So, and all these things exist. However, from my standpoint, I didn't come out like that. It wasn't my interest initially to even delve down this topic in the first place because, and it wasn't even my interest to delve down the topic of Bigfoot either, which, that's how I got into this in the first place was because of what I've experienced out in the Cascade Mountains over the past 4 or 5 years.
Well, when you run across certain things, it really, how can I say it? A friend of mine who was a medical doctor, we were up in the Canadian Rockies, which I was telling you about, we ran into a Bigfoot accidentally, but I'll tell you, it was enough where it did impact in my brain where I have not been out in the woods since then. And, before then we would go camping. I've had 8 children with this current wife. I hope I worded it wrong. But, we used to, before that happened, I used to go camping during the summertime every weekend. And then I grew up, with a family every weekend, all summer long. We would go camping, in a tent, not in a mobile home type of situation. But after we ran into this Bigfoot up in the Canadian Rockies, it was enough, I'll be honest with you, that it made me convinced there's so many things out here we don't know about. And unless you run into one yourself, a lot of people can be very negative and say, there's no such thing as Bigfoot. Or you get the other people say, Bigfoot are very loving and they're very caring. Unless that person has actually ran into one, you don't know if they're friendly or caring. You really don't. And it depends on, I guess, what you do when you run into one. So, that's what got me really going heavy into the paranormal more than I was back when I started my broadcasting career back in 1976.
Yeah, it does take an experience, really, because, it's you get a lot of people that want to join, like our groups and things like that want to, I think they have the curiosity because they heard about it because of shows like Finding Bigfoot and things like that, which usually they don't. but the thing is, it's just that the curiosity is there. But when any kind of evidence is presented, it's not going to get you over the hump, basically, even if it's a picture or, because usually the pictures aren't going to be the crystal clear pictures. Or the videos are usually from a distance. You'll see something that's moving quite quickly, and usually it's dark and you can see it moving, but it's behind brush. And I've seen several videos like that, and I know they're real, But the real clincher, and when you do have photos, it's you have skeptics, and I don't mind people have a certain sense of skepticism about it, especially if it was 40 years ago, and if you had a picture or a photograph, there's less likely concern of the manipulation of the image, But today, you introduce the whole thing with technology that virtually can create people out of nothing on an image. You virtually can have anything created on a photograph or a video.
Oh yeah.
So it becomes even more of a daunting task, and then till you finally realize. Now I'm coming at it like I said. I didn't all of a sudden read about the subject on TV and say, I think I'll become a researcher by looking up everything I can about Bigfoot. It didn't work that way. It was really took getting in close proximity and kind of staying out in the mountains for extended periods of time, and actually hearing them, actually seeing them a few times, especially the juveniles. Those are the life changers. And then, you have to be an experiencer before it really just changes your life, sort of. Because now, it's not the proof was right in front of your eyes. The proof is what you experience. And it can't be any more real than that, than a photograph or a video or anything like that. So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you're so right. I mean, the problem is you got, how can I say it? People that actually enjoy taking an image, and manipulating a fake image with Photoshop or some other, imaging program, and then they slap it on Facebook and say, "Oh, I saw a Bigfoot. Here's a picture of it," or "Here's a picture of Bigfoot walking, through the woods." Well, I, had an extensive background also besides broadcasting. My other love was photography. And I mean, I was one of the very first people that got Photoshop before even it was released to the public, just to, use it and get back to the company about anything I could find wrong with it, to improve it before it hit the streets. So I got really good with Photoshop back in the late 90s. So, I mean, there is so much on Facebook that is so fake that when people look at it, they either believe it or they don't. But you can always tell the, if a picture is fake or not, if you know how to look. I mean, the first thing you do is you measure off from the ground to the height of the Bigfoot, and it's certain ways you can tell. You can also tell because the contrast with the CCD or the CMOS capturing device, the contrast, if you have a tree next to a house, it still is a little bit off, and they still have not been able to totally perfect that after all these years with the imager. But, again, when you come across a situation where you see a little person or you see a Bigfoot, okay, I've had so many people, Samantha, that, when I've talked about it on the show or had other guests talking about, their encounter with Bigfoot and my encounter, they'll come back, "Well, Gary, you had a camera on you. Why didn't you turn around and take a picture?" Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It came after us. I'm not going to think about turning around and taking a picture. I got one thing on my mind is getting, where I felt safe. And that was back to the car. So, no, I never got a picture of it. I wish I would have turned around. But then, a lot of people, they don't have cameras when they run into it. Like Ed Romans, for example, Canada's #1 folk singer, wanted to be on my show back here, I think, around February or so. He ran into a Bigfoot out in the woods near where he lives up in Canada. He was out, with his dog going on a, trail just for walking, and thinking and being creative for thinking of, writing songs. And all of a sudden, 1,000 feet in front of him, he saw a Bigfoot. And it came after him, too. So, I mean, I don't know.
It depends. It could have been the person's perception as far as if it ran after him or
it ran after him a long distance, and he kept turning around, and it was getting closer and closer, and then he turned around the last time, and it was gone.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure if he wanted to take him out, it would have done it a lot quicker than that.
Well, the same with me. It could have, me and my friend, it would have took us out. But it sure did a good job of getting us out of wherever we were at, and that was at an old internment camp up in the Canadian Rockies. And you couldn't be any more secluded than where we were at.
Right. I think we had a prior discussion last time I talked to you was in some situations, especially because you are going in a remote area, you're going into